In this tutorial I'm going to show you how I make my zombie mouth with the ripped away lips and the exposed teeth, and the materials that I use are liquid latex, tissue, cotton pads, natural style acrylic nails, and a plaster mold of my face. I start by going through the acrylic nails and finding the right sizes and shapes to make up my teeth. Usually I use a reference picture or a mirror to look in to see how the teeth look and what sizes they have to be relative to each other. So something like this. And then, because the acrylic nails are hollow, I like to fill in the backs of the acrylic nails with liquid latex and allow it to dry for a few hours or even overnight, so that the teeth are more solid. It can be a bit messy, so I usually use a wooden spatula. And once you leave them, they turn a darker colour and more of a yellow colour. Sorry for the weird filming. And then I prep the mold by putting a layer of liquid latex over it. Wherever I want the prosthetic piece to extend to is where I put the latex. So over my nose and chin and cheeks. Now I'm applying a layer of tissue, usually one ply, over the lips so that the surface is a lot flatter, and so when I lay the tooth over the surface it will lie straight and flat rather than at an angle. And I just apply the teeth in the same rows and groups that I picked them out in before. I cut a point into the canine so that they look more like canine teeth. The molars look quite long here, but when I apply the cotton over them to create the gum line, you can make the gum line quite low so that it looks more wide and more like a molar. I accidentally misaligned the bottom jaw so that the tooth is more in the middle rather than two teeth in the center. Now I'm using the cotton pads to create the gum line, and I usually pull them in half so that they're not as thick, and then cut them in half so that they've got a flat bottom, which will create the gum line. And I put a layer of liquid latex on the bottom of the cotton pad, and then I stick it over the teeth and then put another layer of liquid latex on top. And when it's quite saturated, it's really versatile, and you can flatten it out with a spatula, and I usually use the sharp end of my wax spatula to put it in between each tooth so that it not only holds the acrylic nails in place but also looks more like a gum line. Now for the muscly bits, I cut the cotton pad into strips and I leave them as thick as they normally are, and I dip them into the liquid latex and then layer them where I feel like layering them. So usually it's on the corners where I imagine that the cheek would be ripped away but the muscle strands would be left hanging on. And then I cut a quarter of the edge of the cotton pad into a quarter moon shape, and I apply it to the very edge of the molars, so in my mind that's where the cheek starts and where it's been ripped away. Because when you look at the front of the teeth you don't see all of them because they curve around and are hidden at the back by the other teeth, but because you're sticking it on top of your face you can't create that curve, and so by putting the muscle and the edge of the cheek on top of the teeth you're creating the illusion of that curve and the back teeth being hidden. Next, for the nose, I cut out the strips again. I usually apply them down across the septum and down each side, extending onto the cheek, and then smaller pieces in between. And I apply these strips so that it looks more like muscle, and so it has a texture to it, like the skin's been ripped away and this muscle of the nose is left behind. Now I'm applying more cotton on the bottom of the chin so it's thicker and I can dig away into the cotton to make it look like a part of the jaw is revealed through it. And I usually paint the jawbone part with a white nail polish so it looks more like bone. This is the piece finished, and you'll apply the skin or the liquid latex to make the skin on the day because it makes it a lot smoother and a lot more realistic. And I'd leave this to dry overnight or over a couple of nights until it turns a dark yellow colour and is very solid. And that's the reason that you'd use a plaster mould, is so that you have the appropriate drying time and so that it's easier to work on it than trying to work on your own face in a mirror. So on the left you'll see the finished dried mould and the texture that you get from the cotton pads with a layer of the latex skin laid over the top. And on the right hand side is a painted prosthetic. I'm not going to show you how to paint it because I'm not actually very good at doing colours, and usually applying the blood at the end is what saves me and makes it look more realistic.